Well, I think I began studying poetry years ago. I was fascinated by the jewel-like quality of haiku, how each one could refract a moment the way a prism refracts light and shifts perspective, at once calling attention to and sending attention beyond. So I teach poetry, haiku specifically, and I write it, and I read it, and I think about it, and I write some more. Basho is one of the indisputed masters. And to show the prism-like quality of haiku, I study a collection edited, who is it edited by? By Gabor Terabes from Hungary, and it's available online in a PDF of 178 or so pages. And it has several translators' efforts at translating one or many of his poems. And it's called Matsuo Basho's Haiku Poems in Romanized Japanese with English translations. About on the third page, we find one. It's about, well, you decide what it's about, but about 8 or 9 different translators try their hand at it. The first one is Makoto Ueda. The autumn wind through the opening of a sliding door. Piercing voice. Those of you who know something of haiku may have heard that it's a 2-part poem. The first 2 setting the scene, and the third one providing the pause or the aha, with a little gap like flint igniting the 2 between the pieces or parts of a haiku. And you may also know that the English translation attempts to do what Japanese haiku do in 17 syllables. We are not slavishly committed to the syllable count, but you'll notice that in the one I just read, it goes beyond that. Ueda also did another translation. Autumn wind, through the opening of a door, a piercing cry. Now, is it the wind that is making that noise, or is it a neighbor? Dmitry Smirnov suggests this way: piping autumn wind blows with wild, piercing voice through the sliding door. So Dmitry suggests that it's the wind's voice. Jane Reichold offers this way of looking. Autumn wind's mouth at the sliding door, piercing voice. Personifying, of course. David Landis Barnhill suggests autumn wind through an open door, a piercing cry. That one to me has the spirit of haiku in that it is elemental. Very few words communicating very big ideas. Lucien Strike, or Strick, offers this translation: voices piercing by the slided door, autumn wind. So is that the neighbor or the wind whose voice is piercing? Tim Chillicott, or Chilcott, suggests it's the wind. In The Wind of Autumn, through the opening of a door, a cry piercing through. I love that so many hands can handle a single poem and it not get tattered. It's fresh each time. That's something I love about haiku. In fact, I remember when I decided to offer a class in haiku, I was impressed by Luke Eve Luckring, who my beloved teacher, Tom Devlin, used to savor a poem of hers a day on his blog. For me, to meet a being by way of her poetry is a moment of divine encounter. To meet a being through haiku is to call forth eternity, to bring heaven to earth and remain in it, only for a moment. At least that's the feeling that Eve Luckring's poetry inspired in me. One from the Red Moon Anthology in 2012, a concrete poem, because its shape says this: in tune with its obstacles, rain. So it was written as if the letters dripped down the page as water might along a window or from a leaf. My own poetry is inspired by things in nature and informed by things in the world around us, in the social environment, which is quite something during the global pandemic. I had the opportunity to get selected for inclusion in the Sandstone and Silver anthology, edited by Heather Laing, Nevada's Poet Laureate. And these are the 5 that I selected for that collection. Incandescent clouds crown mountains after rain. Death Valley lives. Writing in Nevada, a desert and the world's adult playground, I am constantly aware of competing definitions of living and dying. So even doing something like watering plants in my xeriscaped yard, it comes to me. A moth's death throes send ripples across the dog bowl that waters the rose. I'm really aware of the cycle of things contributing to other things. And so life and death are in constant conversation. In the next poem, you may see my effort at personification. Gnats and dust motes dance as I water the garden. Pomegranate blushes first. Imagine what memory evoked that haiku. The next one. Clouds part over the cemetery where death takes a bow after rain. We have many losses in this season, not all human. Finally, hummingbirds echo beneath saturated skies, sound at the speed of light. If nothing else, haiku is about moments, and yet those moments ripple in each direction and multiple dimensions at once to ground us and free us from our circumstances. Michael Dylan Welch is a poet who has produced a wonderful checklist for those interested in poetry. It's becoming a haiku poet. And he quotes Erica Jong on his website, Grace Guts, when she defines what it means to be a poet. What makes you a poet is a gift for language, an ability to see into the heart of things, and an ability to deal with important unconscious material. When all these things come together, you're a poet. For me, we are poets because we are not afraid to see behind and beyond things, while we are reverent about things as they are. We can find inspiration in the master's works, but my teacher, Tom Devlin, encouraged me always to find my own masters. And I believe that whatever one's practice is, it should tend toward light and serve as a counterweight to the world's imposing darkness. In literature, Basho valued karumi, or lightness. He wanted it to seem as if children had written his haiku, and he avoided pretension and elaboration. He told his disciples, in my view, a good poem is one in which the form of the verse and the joining of its two parts seem light as a shallow river flowing over its sandy bed. For me, the ultimate goal of this lightness is to allow readers to escape the burdens of the self, our petty peculiarities and circumstances, so that we can experience unity with the world beyond. Basho believed that poetry could, at its best, allow one to feel a brief sensation of merging with the natural world. One may become through language the rock, the water, the stars, leading one to an enlightened frame of mind known as muga, or loss of awareness of oneself. That's my ultimate staycation and why I continue to practice and teach haiku. Because in such consciousness, we may be able to live out our divine purpose and serve one another. So I tweet my haiku, and I can be found at writing the number 4 RRR. And I have several others on other websites. And will continue sowing those seeds wherever I go. I hope you all will enjoy writing haiku for years to come. The best way to get good at it is to be willing to be horrible at it. So I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.